Okay, guys, I'm here. I'm going live. I've got a lot to learn about Facebook Lives. So just bear with me as I figure it all out. And I got to keep reminding myself to look up at the camera because it's not my laptop that I am filming with. So, hey, it's so good to see you guys. I've got my comment things up here. So, be patient with me as I try to manage all this. When you see me looking down, it's because I'm trying to keep up with what's going on. And, anyways, here I am, inaugural Magic with Melissa episode on YouTube. So, I used to do this, as you guys know, on Facebook, or if you're brand new and you have no idea, I used to do these weekly on Facebook. And last year, when we were going through the pandemic and everybody was home, I was practically doing them daily. But I decided I needed to up my technology game and my social media game and work on YouTube. So, hello. Hi, I'm author Melissa Lummis, and this is Magic with Melissa. So, my whole purpose in life is to make things magical for myself, my family, my friends, and anyone who wants to come along for the journey. I'm a paranormal romance and urban fantasy writer, and I have a little side gig. Well, actually, it was my main gig for most of my life as a wellness coach and a yoga instructor, personal trainer, all that fun stuff. But I decided it was time for me to really focus on the things that I enjoy. Not that I didn't enjoy the yoga stuff, but writing is my passion and magic is my game. So here we are. Deep breath. All right. So a lot has been going on, and gosh, don't even know where to begin. Well, let's start with where I was this past week. Last week and this week, beginning of this week, I was in Florida. I drove all the way down with my very good friend, Christine, who you may know as CG Powell. She's an author of sci-fi fantasy, kind of a mix of urban fantasy and science fiction. She also does some erotica, so be on the lookout for that, CG Powell. And she went along with me down to Florida. We went to the Orlando Reads Books Conference in Orlando at the Caribe Royale, I believe it's pronounced, was the hotel. I do think it's moving next year, but don't quote me on that. I know the organizer, Mandy, said that she was probably going to be looking for a new hotel. Hey, you got to go find what works. So, anyways, it was a fantastic event, you guys. I know we've all been kind of sheltering in place, maybe not traveling as much as we would like. So this was a big deal to just go on a big trip, go on a road trip. We ended up spending the first night in Charleston, South Carolina, actually outside of Charleston in Mount Pleasant. But it was nice to be in the area. I love Charleston. It's one of my favorite places in the world. I hadn't been there in a while, so that was pretty cool. And then we headed to Orlando, and the conference was fantastic. The organizers, Mandy Stevens and Bonnie Paulson, did a fan-freaking-tastic job. Industry Day was stellar. I hear that it's going to be separated out so that we'll have like Industry Day with nothing but industry stuff to attend, specifically towards those in publishing, and also then have the reader day the next day. So it's all readers. I know one thing that I had trouble with is, I was involved with the paranormal party, so I had to be there for that. But at the same time, there were these great industry day workshops going on, and I missed out on them. So that kind of sucked. But I did hear from a little birdie that it all was recorded. So there's videos out there. I think they're going to be available next week for those who attended. You had to have a ticket and attend to actually see those videos. So, all right. I got to do for the first time a wellness workshop on Industry Day, and it was really exciting for me to finally pull together all the things that I've learned over 20 years in the fitness industry, and then just my own journey on wellness and health. So it was awesome to share that. I also got to share a lot from my author stuff. So first off, Shadow the Witch, which you guys have been patiently waiting for 2 years. I know, you guys. I had to really get over some mental hurdles with Shadow of the Witch. You guys know I was experiencing burnout. I was pushing too hard. I was trying to do so much so fast, and it just wasn't working for me. So I had to take a big step back and say, what is it that I really want to write? What is it that I really want to be doing? And why do I feel like I'm burning the candles at both ends and getting nowhere? So that was a question I had to ask. And the biggest lesson I've learned, and it was hard to learn. It's crazy how we build up these things mentally about what we're doing wrong and what it takes to quote unquote succeed, or even what success is. So I had to really redefine those things. I had to shift my paradigm. And I came out the other side realizing there's no such thing as failure. Just throw that freaking nonsense out the window. Will things not go the way you would like them to go? Hell yeah. But that's not failure. That is an opportunity to learn. So you try things, you put it out there. And that's what I was doing. I tried things, I put it out there, it didn't work. I tried something else, I put it out there, it didn't work. I tried something else, that worked a little bit. And I saw results from it. But I had the wrong mindset that, I constantly had to be moving forward. I constantly had to be hitting particular goals, sales goals in particular. And I realized that I was really just misguided on what success really meant and about how to go about it. For every truly amazingly successful person you see, there are years behind them when you didn't know who the hell they were. And they were just working away, grinding away, taking breaks, making sure they spent time with their family or not. I know for me, it's important. I'm here to enjoy life, not to grind away and be miserable. So if I am working, it needs to be something that really resonates with me and not just something someone told me to do. I mean, they're common sense things. I get that, like building a following and getting an audience. And, there's a particular way to do that. And I've learned that it's about being who I am and acknowledging that, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. And my writing is not everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. It's also about what am I doing to make other people's lives better? I looked at my author brand and said, what is this all about? Is it about selling books, or is it about creating experience, telling stories? And there's lots and lots and lots of ways to tell stories. And I realized that somebody asked me, well, what's your brand's message? And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm an author. What the heck does that mean? What's my brand's message? And, it took a while, but it finally clicked. I know what my message is as an author. And that is, my message is you got to make your life magical because you only get to live it once. So that's what I'm here to do. And from now on, you're going to see me coming from that angle, from that paradigm of I'm here to help people make their lives magical, whether it's through reading one of my novels or just coming here and joining me for Magic with Melissa and just learning how to make your life so much more magical and stop getting dragged down in the doldrums and the humdrum and what's wrong with life and what's not working in life. It's so easy to get caught up in that. And I really had a lesson in that today. This morning I went out to my yurt. You guys know I have a yurt. If you don't, if you're new to this, I built a yurt back in April of 2013. Now, I did not do it by myself, nor did I make the parts and pieces. My yurt was basically the biggest IKEA project I have ever had to put together. And I had to get help because this wasn't something I can do all by myself. So my yurt is my sacred space. It's my place to go away when I just need to step out of the mainstream of life and just be quiet, or not be quiet. If I need to ohm or scream my lungs out or whatever, I can go out to my yurt. Luckily, I live in the woods. So if I am out there screaming, nobody's going to hear me. Ooh, that doesn't sound too good. But it is my private space. It's my personal space. It's also where I take clients when I'm doing private yoga or wellness coaching or Reiki. And I also do intuitive guidance, so tarot readings, stuff like that. Anyways, that's a whole nother aspect of my life. But I went out to my yurt this morning to do some yoga and some meditation and just get organized. And one of the things I do in the mornings is I sit down and I write. And I got this idea for how to organize my morning musings, if you will, through Jacob Norby's book. I think it's called The Creative Cure. Sorry, guys. I should have had this written down. I'm looking it up right now. The Creative Cure? Yes, by Jacob Norby. How finding and freeing your inner artist can heal. I think it's like can heal your life. I have to look at it. It's a really, really awesome book. And one of the things he says in there, yes, can heal your life, is about writing every day. And one of the prompts that he gave was write down, how do I feel? Because that's something we all kind of skip over. And here I was, this yoga teacher talking about, connecting the mind and the body. How do you feel and all that? In a lot of ways, I was very disconnected from that. So this writing every day has really helped me. The first question is, how do you feel? And the second question is, what do you need? And part of writing that down is acknowledging your needs, but then also fulfilling them. So everything from, I need water, I'm thirsty, because when you talk about how you feel, start with the physical sensations and you can go into the emotional. And then what do you need? And the last one is, what would you love? And so this morning, what I realized is what I need is to slow down even more in my life, which I thought, I feel like I'm standing still. How can I slow down even more? But I wasn't standing still. I was still pulling the cart. So, all right, and I've gone off on a tangent here, but this is really important in life. And I wanted to share it with you. I have felt like most of my life, like I have a yoke on, right? Like someone's hooked me up to the plow and I'm just pulling away. And there's this tension. And this is the question, how do I feel? Going inside, I could still feel that tension of pulling on that yoke, pulling that plow along, even when I'm supposed to be resting. So when I got back from Orlando Reed's books, actually on the way back, we stopped in St. Augustine for a night to relax, to go shopping in St. Augustine, to hang out on the beach, hang out by the pool. We stayed at a really cool resort hotel. It was awesome. The pool was actually on the beach side of the hotel, which was amazing. You could actually hang out in the pool looking out over the beach. And the point of going there was to decompress, because no matter how much fun a book conference is, it's still a book conference. I'm still on the whole time I'm there, unless I'm retreating into my hotel room. And even then, I'm kind of just like sleeping or grabbing something to eat and then rushing out to the next thing. And one of the things I realized this morning was that I still wasn't standing still, and that there was room to slow down even more. And that's really hard to acknowledge, but I acknowledged it. And I realized what I needed was to take that big breath and stop pulling on the yoke and really rest when I'm resting. So later on, I pulled some cards, and interesting enough, came up the Emperor. And the Emperor is important in my life because it represents my soul purpose. It's what my soul exists for. And that's different than, say, my life purpose. If you believe in multiple lives and reincarnation, which I do, I think that in your next life, I'll always have this soul purpose of the Emperor, which is a compassionate leadership. And it's also about structuring things. And I do believe that one of the things I'm here to do is to shift paradigms around how to live life. So I think we have had a wonderful age of enlightenment where we came out of the darkness of superstition and came into science and philosophy and medicine and things being very logical. But sometimes logical can be overbearing. I know this is going to sound weird, but bear with me, because part of the joy in life is the intuitive, creative, magical side. And when we lost our belief in the superstitious, we also lost our belief in magic. And I think those are two different things. There's like a fearful side where you're like afraid, like if you walk under a ladder, something bad's going to happen, or a black cat crosses your path. That's superstition. But magic is that indescribable quality of life that makes it joyful, that makes it worth living. And those things aren't logical. Love isn't logical. Um, the act of love can be a logical thing, but it's not logical, for instance, when you're looking at somebody who is either doing something or saying something that you find disrespectful or even hateful. So logic does not dictate that you love that person. Logic dictates that you shun that person or fight that person. So love is not logical. And I do believe when faced with hate, the only answer we can give that makes any difference whatsoever in a positive way is love. Hate on top of hate is just throwing fuel on the fire, right? So taking a step back to my sole purpose and being, this Emperor card that came up this morning, I also got two very interesting cards. I got the 10 of Swords and I got the 5 of Cups, which, if you know anything about tarot, they're kind of the bad boys of tarot. So the 10 of Swords is like a painful ending, betrayal, and the 5 of Cups is grief, sadness, regret. It also kind of is modeling that you're kind of overly focused on what's not going right. And here's the thing that I got out of that whole reading, and it was really inspirational today, was that it is time to let go of all those things, the sense of betrayal, things that people did wrong, the grief, all those bad things in life. The 10 of Swords can also kind of mean you're being over dramatic. And I took that to heart, saying it's time to leave the past in the past. And it's really time to embrace that Emperor energy, that masculine, compassionate, creating new things, building, being a builder, right? Instead of constantly tearing things down. So I've spent a time in my life where I was undoing what I felt were kind of misguided beliefs, things that I didn't choose to believe, but because I was young enough when they happened, it just kind of left a path or a scar in my brain, not a bad scar, but a way of being or having a belief system based on maybe not so good events. And I've realized that at this time in my life, it's time to let that all go. It's a release time. Let it go. It's the end of the cycle. It's time to move forward into better things, and the 5 of Cups is about the grieving process, and it's time for that to be over. The 6 of Cups is about, being able to take the good things from the past and cherish them. At least that's one interpretation. So whenever I see a card, like a number card from the tarot, I immediately think about the cards on either side of it. And am I moving forward? Or am I moving back? And I'm choosing to move forward. 6 of Cups is a very positive card. It's a sense of connection, sometimes nostalgia, but I think what it means is taking the best of things and bringing it forward and sharing it with the next generation. And that is where I'm at. And I realize what I would really love, going back to my journal entry, what do I need is to let go of the past. What would I really love? And that is to be completely free of it and just enjoy what's coming up next. And that is why I decided today was my inaugural episode of Magic with Melissa on YouTube. So I can leave things in the past that are in the past and enjoy what's coming up. And what is coming up is the release of Shadow the Witch. I don't even have a paperback to show you because I sold them all at the event. Woohoo! At Orlando Reads Books. And that was a special release. So that particular version of Shadow the Witch no longer exists. and I will be doing an official release of Shadow of the Witch the end of October. And I'm going to have a specific date for you. I'm going to get a pre-order up. And I'm also going to be offering advanced reader copies in my newsletter. So down in the show notes, you will see a link to my newsletter to subscribe to it. That you should get an email shortly once you subscribe with my novel Skin Thief. It's the only way to get my novel Skin Thief. And when you subscribe to the newsletter, you will be the first one to be notified when the advanced reader copies are available. You can also go to Facebook and follow me on Facebook, but I really do send it out in the newsletter first because I want to give newsletter subscribers the first opportunity for advanced reader copies. So keep an eye out for that. Also, just really, really excited about where this series is going. It's called the Soul Tracker Trilogy. So I'm going to say the next one will be out next year. I'm not in a rush to get number 2 out because I want the book to be good, not fast. Sometimes you can get good and fast, but for me, that doesn't work. So that's something I've learned. When I said it took me 2 years to write this book, I had a lot of hurdles to get over mentally, but I also needed to figure out what works for me. And trying to write 4 books a year isn't working for me right now. I've been told that I need 4 books a year in order to stay afloat in the Amazon algorithms. And you know what? I'm fine if that isn't what's going to happen right now, because I'm not going to write that fast and write something that's worth your time to read. So deep breath. It's okay. It's coming. All right. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is, I've given you some idea of where my life journey's been. My writing journey is going to start taking a divergent path. So I'm still writing fiction. Urban fantasy is a direction I'm going. I started out with paranormal romance. That was Of Light and Blood. Of Light and Blood led to The Little Flame. So The Little Flame is a spin-off, and that is more urban fantasy, but it's a hybrid of urban fantasy and paranormal romance. Soul Tracker Trilogy is urban fantasy. It doesn't mean there isn't sexy things in it. It's an urban fantasy. Dresden Files and Grimm meets the Fever series is the closest thing I could come to a description. So just so you know an idea of what the flavor is. So it's a Southern murder mystery, but it's urban fantasy with supernatural and paranormal creatures. So it is the direction I'm going with my fiction, but I'm also going to be branching off and doing some nonfiction. I really got inspired doing that Wellness for Writers workshop I mentioned earlier. So I decided the presentation I did for that is my outline for my very first nonfiction piece of work. Yeah, my first nonfiction book. I'm pretty excited about it. I know. I've been talking about doing it for a long, long time, but it's finally happening. So I'm going to be working on 2 books over the course of the next year. So this is why I said Shadow of the Witch isn't necessarily going to be out in 3 months. It's probably going to be next year, probably more towards midsummer or maybe even around Halloween. So that's where I'm headed. I also want to let you guys know that life has slowed down tremendously ever since the lockdowns that we experienced last year when my daughter got back from Italy. Yes. Those of you who've been following Magick with Melissa on Facebook know that my daughter was in Italy when the pandemic really broke out. She flew into Italy like the 18th or the 19th. They already had a couple cases. Then they were locking down Lombardy, I believe was the town. If I got that wrong, let me know. And then it was a school group. It was their senior year trip. And they immediately had to find a way to reschedule a group of 40-some people instead of flying out of Milan to flying out of Paris. And then they had this adventure of everywhere they went in Italy. As they were leaving, things were shutting down behind them. Talk about an adventure. I told my daughter, this will be something that you'll be telling your grandchildren about because you were in Italy when the plague broke out, or the pandemic. It's not a plague technically, but ever since that happened and she got home, which was a relief because we had no idea if she was going to end up in quarantine for a couple of weeks in Jersey or whatever, because they flew into Newark. But once she got home and we actually were in sort of a quarantine. We were in a quarantine before the rest of the world was, because when her school group got back from Italy, the school thought it would be best if they just shut down for 2 weeks, because there were so many of the teachers along that they wouldn't be able to hold class without all the kids that went. It's a small school. Anyways, long story short, we were already in quarantine in case the people who my daughter was exposed to COVID while she was in Italy. Turns out she wasn't, or she didn't catch it. So they went back to school, and I think they were in school 2 days when the governor of Virginia declared the schools shut and the lockdown. And that was my daughter did not get to finish her senior year. She did graduate, but they did their best with whatever they could hobble together with online, and finished out the year. And she's in college now. So she's a sophomore down at Virginia Tech, and everything turned out okay. But yes, starting with last year, everything has really slowed down, and I think I'm really enjoying it. So I say I think because there's a part of me that gets restless, that thinks I need to keep doing things. And I realize that restless part, instead of it keeping me moving forward, it often got me bogged down in busy work details. And I think it's one of the reasons that it took me so long to get certain things done. Because when I was avoiding something that was challenging, or I didn't know how to do something, instead of doing the research to figure out how to do it, or just making myself jump in and do something uncomfortable, I was doing busy work using that restless energy that wasn't really contributing to any of my goals. So, and getting clear on goals and understanding the difference between, the intentions I want to set and the goals I want to achieve, and projects versus tasks, blah, blah, blah. That's been a whole learning experience in its own. So I think that's enough for today. I just wanted to do this inaugural episode to share with you some of the what's been going on, what's coming up, and also to practice using Facebook Live or not Facebook, YouTube Live. I know how to do Facebook Live, but this is my first time doing Magick with Melissa. I did do the first chapter of Enlightened Live, which that's the other thing I'm going to tell you. I'm going to continue that. I don't know how often that's going to go on. I'm sitting down over Sunday, and that's my planning day, and figuring out how often I can do the live readings and how often I can do the Magick with Melissa. I'm hoping to do Magick with Melissa once a week, and then do a chapter once a week as well, maybe more. But I do have to write, and I do have to outline and do all the other things. So until I get my YouTube feet under me, let's just say once a week, I'll definitely be here. All right, so I'm thinking Fridays at 4 instead of 3:30, because I think a lot of people are still at work. Let me know if that works for you. It could be our little happy hour, our magic time. So I don't have any tarot cards with me, which is very unusual, because usually I have a deck sitting right by my side, and I think I just shuffled them all off onto the shelf. You know what? If you guys hold on a second, I'm going to get you a deck, because I want to pull a card before we go. And I thought I set one here, but I'm going to grab a deck. Hold on. All right, guys, I'm still here. That cracks me up. All right, so I grabbed the closest deck. I haven't used this one in a while, so it'll be interesting to see how it responds. Tarot cards kind of have energy, and when they get ignored, they don't really like it. But this is a cool deck that I got, believe it or not, standing in line at like a Barnes & Noble or something like that. I don't know if it was Barnes & Noble or back in the day when the Borders books was still around. But you know how they have those little kits on the little racks? And this was the little tarot, the complete kit. You guys see that? I know the lighting isn't the best there. And I'm going to learn all about that too to get the best lighting. So what I'm going to do is pull a card for the week or for the weekend. Just what kind of message do we need for the weekend? And these are fun cards. You can see the art on the back. Right? Woo. All right. So what is our message? It is judgment. Okay, so you guys see the butterfly there? How's my camera doing? So the butterfly holding the key. So a lot of times when we see like the Rider-Waite version, it can be a little scary, it can be a little intimidating, all that fun stuff. But honestly, what judgment is that opportunity to really open ourselves up to who we are and what our calling is in life. It's also about transformation. So whenever you see butterflies, right, you think of transformations. And I don't know why that's blurry, you guys. Something's up with my camera, but that's all right. So the butterfly is all about transformation, and the judgment card is all about responding to the call. So whatever is happening in your life right now, you're being called to something. You know what it is. You may not be admitting it to yourself. And this weekend's an opportunity to explore that. So that's what our message is for the weekend. Be open to exploring this call that you're feeling. Like maybe it's a call to change. Maybe it's a call to do something differently. I know for me, the call is a paradigm shift. And I already talked about that. It's not just about how I live my life and what I define success as, but also what I define health and wellness as. I mean, I spent years in the fitness industry and I played the game with everybody. I worked out hard and I ended up screwing up my shoulder. And I had a choice. I could get cortisone shots or I could rest my shoulder for 6 months. And believe me, being in the fitness industry, I know where these cortisone shots end up. It doesn't get better. You may temporarily relieve the pain, but sometimes pain is there for a reason. It's a message. So think about that. What's the key to your transformation? What needs to change in your life in order for you to really live the life you feel you're being called to? And for me, it's been changing the definition of success and changing the definition of wellness. So the definition for wellness for some people has been to weigh a certain amount or to lift a certain amount or all of that. And those are all fine goals. But ultimately, how much you weigh is only a correlation and only to a certain extent with how well you are. For me, wellness is about energy. It's about having the energy to do what I want and the quality of that energy. Is it frantic? Does it feel like I'm pulling on a yoke? Or do I feel like I'm putting in good, satisfying, fulfilling work in life? Am I being of service to others? Like all this is part of my wellness definition now. And that's a whole nother thing that I hope to get into on a whole nother YouTube channel. But that's a little glimpse into some of the thoughts I've been having. I definitely want to get back into talking about wellness now that I have these paradigm shifts and I see that it isn't working for everybody. This focus on weight just gives us more weight. I mean, the bottom line is go watch. There's a show called Explained, I believe, on Netflix, and they did one on why diets don't work. That's a really, really, really succinct, wonderful insight into why these diets don't work. And I'm not going to get into it now. So I'm just going to wrap this up and say thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you make every single day of your life magical, and I will see you next week, 4:00 next Friday. Take care, everybody.